Chilling here with Kyle Busch. And Kyle, I look at your career. You've had so many incredible things that have gone on in your racing career.
Yeah.
But arguably, 10 years ago, you started the season in hospital and then went on to win the championship. Do you ever, or how often, do you look back on that season for some sort of inspiration?
Yeah, honestly, not much. I just kind of recall it or remember it, or you're at autograph signings or something like that, and somebody brings up the green crispy M&M's car, So, there's a few good times where you're just kind of like, oh yeah, I remember all that, and the pain and suffering that you went through in the beginning of the year, but then the triumph and jubilation that you got at the end of the year. So, it was I wouldn't call it a fun time, but it turned out to be one of the more fun times, challenging times for sure.
I'm bringing this up though because in all of sports, that is one of the greatest impact stories, and I don't think it gets enough attention.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't want it to get enough attention, but it ended well. All's well that ends well.
Absolutely. No, it certainly ended well. I think Coach Gibbs even said that too once upon a time where, this is probably one of the greatest war stories in sports. And so, I take honor and pride in that because there's not a lot of times is there guys that get injured in our sport, right? But then have the opportunity to sit out for weeks, but then come back. And other times you see it in football or baseball or whatever. And those guys, they come back, but maybe they're just not quite as the player that they once were before. So I think that's pretty sweet.
That era of racing to now, and this is not a question about JGR versus RCR. This is not a question of Toyota versus Chevy. It's not a question of anything except for Kyle Busch. What is different in your preparation for getting in the race car or even maybe out of the race car then versus now?
Not much really. You watch the film during the week. I would say, 10 years ago, we probably didn't have SMT. I think SMT came on in like 17 or 18. So that's when you started looking at the data of drivers and what they were doing. And you would get that catalog of data and information from, races and stuff like that you could always go back through and look through. But watching races and checking out what's going on, looking through your notes, you have your driver pre-brief that they send to you of like, hey, this is what we have in the car this week. And these are some of the notes that we've taken from the last couple times that we've been here. So just kind of a refresher of going back to these particular places.
When do you get those in the week?
Thursday.
That seems kind of close to the race weekend.
Yeah, well, if I read it on Tuesday, I'll forget by Thursday. So I told him, I was like, I want it on Thursday. So then I read it on Friday and I'm ready to go.
I noticed you really studying a lot of stuff in the pits after you got out of the car with practice. So that's just another part of it. It's the next level, the next day, the next whatever it takes on that weekend.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even, after practice and qualifying's over, like you'll go through and they'll send you more data of compares from other drivers that were fast, and figuring out how were they fast, what were they doing on the front side of a run, how were they fast, what were they doing on the back side of the run, what can I do behind the wheel and changing my driving style on the front side or the back side to help with either one of those.
Okay. Bucket list. What is something that you have not yet checked off your racing bucket list?
Obviously the Daytona 500.
Of course.
Yeah, that's probably number one. Definitely want to win that one. That would certainly be cool. That would basically have accomplished everything in NASCAR there is to accomplish. It only happens once a year, so it's tough to get yourself in that situation as often as you'd like. Especially with just the way the racing now is and the craft of the speedway racing is and kind of seeming is, I'm going to put it 80% luck nowadays versus 20% skills. So, yeah, you got to be in the right place at the right time.
Outside of NASCAR.
Outside of NASCAR bucket list, I don't know. That's a good one. Indy 500 would certainly be cool. I know I'm getting older, so I'm definitely.
Jimmy Johnson did it at an old age.
Yeah. I want to win. I want to be competitive, and so sooner the better. But getting a little bit older on that. I've always kind of said like the Baja 1000 would be cool, but hearing all the horror stories of the things that kind of go on down there during that week, I don't know if I'm down for that. So we'll see.
You could have a chase vehicle and Randall could be in the chase vehicle just helping you, making sure you're okay. You can do it.
Maybe I'll just be the chase vehicle. Maybe I'll be the helicopter guy that's just like above the racing going on.
We've got a chopper for that. So
yeah,
you're good to go.
That's right.
Thanks, Kyle.
No problem. Good to see you guys.